Wow. I don't think I've ever heard Unitarians clap so well together, ever. That is awesome. You are to be applauded for that. So, how do you know when the Spirit's telling you to do something? I mean, they say, you got to dance when the Spirit... I didn't see anybody dancing, so apparently the Spirit was not saying dance. How do you know? What?
You just get the feeling to do it?
You get the feeling. So it's about a feeling, right? About something that you get a sense of inside. And do you just do it anywhere, anyway, no matter how or who you are or who else is there? Yeah? Yeah? Sometimes some of us do, right? Any other ideas? Well, today I'm going to be talking, while you guys are in your classes, I'm going to be talking to the people in here a little bit about how we're all part of something bigger, right? And we have all kinds of different names for that. One person a long time ago wrote about it, a guy named Paul, talked about how each of us are a member of a body, right? So like he said, you know, just because eyes can't do what hands do, eyes don't think that they're not important. Eyes have an important job. Hands have an important job. We all have important jobs. We're all part of one body. And so I think part of how we know about Spirit telling us what to do is it's both about what's inside of us, but it's also about what's around us. And listening to the people in our lives and figuring out how what we're moved to do will impact them. What will it do? Like turning off our cell phone. Or, I don't know. So I would encourage you guys, when you're talking with the grown-ups that you're with after this, to have a conversation about how do you know what the Spirit is telling you to do, or if what you want to do is the right thing at the right time. And I also invite you to ask, if you have grown-ups that are going to be in this, ask them what inside of them is unworthy of love. Because we're going to talk a little bit about that too. Can you remember that? What inside of you is unworthy of love. All right? So keep that in mind. Make sure you ask somebody after service what the answer to that is. Or if you have an answer, you think about that too. Now we're going to sing a song that also talks about us being part of something bigger. It's number 389, and it's called Gathered Here. So we've got a couple of hymnals up here. Do you guys have hymnals back there? Oh, we're going to do the chalice lighting first. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Nani has agreed to do the chalice lighting. Come on up. So, is it all ready? Yeah, go ahead. Slide the wick out a little bit. There you go. Yep. Awesome. And then just use the words right here.
Symbol of light, symbol of knowledge, symbol of warmth, symbol of freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love.
So when you finally get everybody hymn books, we don't need them. Right. All right? But you guys are going to have an important part. So remember 3 different phrases. One is mystery of this hour. One strong body. Struggle and the power. Okay? So the words go. Gathered here in the mystery of this hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Okay, so here's the tune. Learn it well. Here we go. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. One more time. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one be the other part. Well, let's do it the other way around. You guys do it first, and then we'll come in on the round, okay? All right, so here we go. And gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggles and the pouting, Spirit draws near, scattered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the pouting, Spirit draws near, Spirit draw near. Okay, now, you guys are on. All right, John, Kevin, Matthew, Julie, and the kids will do it first. All right, so we'll get them going. You guys stand up and belt it out. All right. We'll come in second, and then the chapel choir will come in third. Okay, you ready, kids? All right, here we go. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the pouting, scattered here draws and the body, scattered here in the mystery of the hour, scattered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the pouting, scattered here draws one strong body, scattered here in the struggle and the pouting, Spirit draw near. All right, I think you get to go to Sunday school.
I invite you now to take a few moments to turn in silence towards that which you find most holy, for prayer, for meditation, for reflection. Most holy and beloved Spirit of life, we are gathered here in mystery, in struggle, and in power. We gather here with the messiness of our lives, the things we think we know and the things we think we don't, the people we think we've been wronged by and the people we know we have wronged, and those we don't. We gather with our brokenness and our healing, with our hopes and our longing, with our frustration. We gather knowing of a world at war around us and within us and across oceans and in houses next door. We gather seeking wisdom and courage, comfort and inspiration. Help us to be found in this time and this place. By that we most need, and that which most needs us. To these imperfect words, we add the silent intentions of our hearts. Shalom, salam, amen, and blessed be. Our first reading this morning comes to us from the Reverend Dr. Yvonne Seon. In 1981, she became the first African-American woman ordained as a Unitarian Universalist minister. She also happens to be the mother of Dave Chappelle, who is an actor and comedian. She is a political scientist and educator. She was a visionary in creating among the first Black Studies higher education programs in the country, and she has done international work, focused in the Congo, and as a member of a team to UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Here then are her words from her short essay, Transcending Boundaries. When I was a child, I would stand and gaze at the starry firmament and contemplate infinity. And as I stood there, the boundary that is time dissolved, and I expanded my spirit to fill its space. My being stilled of all fear and anxiety and anguish, they all disappeared. Forgotten were chores and homework and the ordinary around me. Transcending boundaries was fun in those days. But as I reached adulthood, it became more difficult. More and more, the world was with me as I did chores and homework. More and more, my own fears were with me as I encountered others. More and more, I was aware of the boundaries of race and class and age and sex. I felt myself cringe as the bantering youth in the street came nearer to me. And I felt myself grow tearful as I encountered a senior citizen living with pain or the limited choices of a fixed income. I felt myself become angry as I was subjected to the indignities of being rejected by others because I am black, because I am a woman, or because of the blind person or the openly gay person I was with. I felt myself becoming unwilling to acknowledge my oneness with the addicted person who is my friend, or the homeless people sleeping on the benches in the park. Today, transcending boundaries is hard work. For one thing, I've created more of them than since I was young, and I've built them higher and stronger than they once were. And for another thing, I'm much more self-righteous and much less humble than I was then. Sometimes, though, when I am at my best, I remember that the other I distinguish myself from could be me in another time or place, another circumstance. Then I remember the words of a colleague who observed that it is my racism, my sexism, my homophobia that I am called upon to address. So I take a few deep breaths and begin to release the fears that are the boundaries between me and my fellow humans. Our second reading this morning comes to us from a Persian poet, Hafiz. His fuller name, Shams Uddin Muhammad Hafiz. He lived and wrote between 1320 and 1389, roughly the same time as the European writer Geoffrey Chaucer. He was born and grew up in Shiraz, what is now Iran, and he was a favorite of Ralph Waldo Emerson's. In the 1800s, Ralph Waldo Emerson read Hafiz in German and translated it into English and referred to him as the poet's poet. It is said that there are more copies of his work sold in Iran than the Quran. He is a mystic and romantic and often took aims at religious hypocrisy. This reading then from Hafiz. Each soul completes me, my beloved said. My name is not complete without yours. I thought, how can a human ever have such worth? And God, knowing all our thoughts, and all our thoughts are innocent steps on the path, then addressed my heart. God revealed a sublime truth to the world when he sang, I am made whole by your life. Each soul completes me. This concludes this morning's readings.
We are growing, heaven knows.
Well, good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Church. For those of you who I've not yet met, I'm Reverend Matthew Cockrum, a consulting minister with this congregation for the next couple of years. And along with Tom Goldsmith and the staff, and with you, it is my pleasure to serve the mission and ministries of this place in this world to each other and in the larger community beyond. It is a good thing to be together. Gathering for worship is something that is nourishing and challenging, and it is a religious practice, really, one that you're all engaged in right now just by getting here this morning. So congratulations. You can check that off your list. Other religious practices that communities engage in include generosity and hospitality, and this is a part of the service where we do one of those, which is giving us a chance to welcome those newest among us in an act of hospitality. So if you're here for the first or second time, or if you've been around for a while but haven't stood up and said, "Hey, I'm here," and feel comfortable doing so, I invite you to just stand so we can see who's here and make sure we make an effort to greet you during coffee hour after service. So if you're here new-ish, feel free to stand up so we can see you. Thank you. And if you couldn't see, there are other newish people around here. So just so you know, you're not the only one. There was only one in the first service, and he was courageous. So I hope you'll stick around after service in Elliott Hall for coffee, or stop by the welcome table where there's more information about this particular community. There are a lot of things going on in this community right now. Among them are the auction that's coming up in a few weeks. There are some tables out there with some enticing items to buy tickets for. So if you're interested in that, please stop by that table. A reminder that Jazz Vespers starts next Sunday. And there's a whole lineup on the back of your bulletin telling you about all of those. A meditation and art class, and several youth programs that are going on right now. First of all, our Coming of Age program, which is for 7th and 8th graders. It's every other year here, and it's a program which engages these youth in reflecting on religious issues and starting to craft a faith statement. Because even though we are a place that is non-creedal, we do believe that it's deeply important that we're clear about what we believe individually and how it guides us, right, as well as collectively. So one part of that is to have youth meet with a mentor. That's a member of the congregation who's an adult member who can meet with them about 7 times between January and May and be a sounding board for them and an interview partner, someone who can listen to the youth's thoughts and someone to whom the youth can listen to, not for you to make them like you. I mean, either like you or approximate you, you know what I mean. But so that they can have a partner in conversation and understand what another adult in this congregation thinks like and how they think. If you're interested in doing that and have the time, stop by the welcome table and sign up. Some of those coming of age youth are selling bulbs. Yes, it is the time to plant bulbs. They're selling daffodil bulbs and tulip bulbs out in the social hall. And our high schoolers are preparing for a Halloween party next Friday night that is a fundraiser for their ministry. So there's a lot going on. I hope you'll partake of what you're able to and pay attention to your insert in the announcements in the bulletin for all the other things. Now, as the ushers come forward to receive this morning's offering, please take a moment to greet those nearest you. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. Turn to a neighbor and say that. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. Now, if you haven't already, turn to a different neighbor and say it again. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. Thank you. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. And now the introverts among us can stop squirming, because I'm going to ask you to say that to yourself. So introverts and everybody else, put your hand where you most need to feel that truth, whether it's your heart, your head, wherever. You don't have to tell me. And say to yourself, either aloud or quietly or silently, there is nothing within me unworthy of love. Do you believe it? Yeah. Me either. Or at least I have a hard time believing it. But I think that is part of what our Universalist heritage proclaims. That the way is a way of love. Not a way of critique, not a way of wringing ourselves out, not a way of shaming or blaming or being better than. It is a way of loving each and every one and all of life. That loving is the way. Loving is the line to walk. Those words, there is nothing within you unworthy of love, came to me a few summers ago when I was serving as a chaplain at a youth leadership school, a Unitarian Universalist youth leadership school. Part of the school entailed a closing circle in which the youth were presented with a small pendant of a globe, and words were spoken to them to remind them that they are the light of the world, that each of us is the light of the world, and that we are to share that light with each other. My addition to that ritual over the years had become an anointing in addition to the pendant. And eventually the anointing involved glitter. I'm a little bit of a glitter queen, I gotta say. But I drew this from a ritual that was created by the evolutionary evangelists, or creatheists as they call themselves, Michael Dowd and Connie Barlow, who are convinced that science and evolution are a mystical, magical, religious story that we need to reclaim using powerful poetic language, and that can be a new story for a new generation. Part of their curriculum and their teachings involves what they call a stardust communion, walking through years and eons of evolution, bringing glitter out from the center of the Big Bang to each of us, and then anointing us, reminding us that we are all made of stardust, and to stardust we will return. So on my good days, I take that on as my own challenge, anointing myself, reminding me that I'm made of stardust and that everyone else is too. And I decided to bring this to this community of youth. As in previous years, we went around the circle and handed out the pendants, and in previous years, I smudged their foreheads, this time with a little bit of oil mixed with glitter, and said the words, "There is nothing within you unworthy of love." And we were a mess. I don't think anybody had ever told me that, and I doubt that anybody had ever told them that. And as the words came to me in preparation, I wondered, can I really say this? Is it really true? And is it true to our heritage? Is it authentically you enough? A common question for me, always wondering if I should toe the party line and what that party line is. And there is one, though we are a liberal bunch. Perhaps that's the party line. You have to be liberal. You can interpret what that means, or you have to be independent, or you have to think through things, because we are a logical bunch. And as I thought and felt my way through those words, there is nothing within you unworthy of love, I thought, yes, I think this is what the Universalists taught us. First, when they were arguing about who was saved by the life and teachings and death of Jesus, initially arguing about that and coming to the conclusion that everyone was saved, not just Christians. It was debated and discussed over centuries and eventually declared through creeds, yes, creeds, among Universalists. The details of the doctrines varied. Sure, there were catechisms, but one way or another, The conviction that the world was saved and redeemed, that there was nothing beyond the reach of love, was what won out in our Universalist heritage. Now, initially, of course, it was understood in those communities that that love was Jesus as God. But eventually, the logical thinking aspects of this tradition went even further and said, well, if salvation isn't just an issue of individuals, and if it's not just about Jesus, then all religions must matter. And all religions must have truth and be valid and important and deserve respect and curiosity. All of them responses and articulations of the struggle to be human, to be alive in the world, and to wonder how to work for the realization of the commonwealth of heaven, the beloved community here among us. The beloved community whose seeds are in each of us and whose call is upon all of us. This love, this divine love that calls each of us, that penetrates each of us, that seeks out those places in our lives which feel unworthy, which we are told are bad or wrong, should be hidden, should be dug out. This love goes there and just loves, just appreciates, just holds, and includes all. It is a love who is like the God written about first by the ancient Greeks and then by Enlightenment writers, who said its center is everywhere and its circumference is nowhere. The boundaries, the lines that we draw are our fears, the fears that create the boundaries between an us and a them, fears that separate us into the saved and the unsaved, the righteous and the degenerate, fears that separate simply me from you. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that there's really no you or me, that this is all a grand illusion, at least not on this level of existence. For as I was reminded by a dear colleague, that if we truly do just lose ourselves, if we truly do kind of regress to an infantile state of, I don't know where I end and the world begins, then what would the world look like? Those of you who have small children can tell us, right? This is not an effective way to create a society. As a matter of fact, it's how we've gotten into a lot of the messes that we're in. It is a place of privilege, of thinking that we are at the center and everything will take care of us. But there is something different. There's something different about imagining that the separation between us is not as rigid as we'd previously thought. And considering perhaps that the separations we make, the judgments that we make of each other, might soften, and that we might grow as a result of that softening. The line of love that we walk is a line that draws us into relationship, not separate from someone else. Universalism still matters. Just look at how hard it was to say, there is nothing within you unworthy of love. The world still needs this message. Think about how difficult it might be for you to say that to one of your enemies, one of your political adversaries, say, or perhaps a religious one, perhaps to a family member who has wronged you. What would it mean to live a truth of that love? Last week, when the Parliament of World Religions was here, there was this vision cast, right, of a beautiful, harmonious global village where we'll all get along and be curious about sampling each other's religious practices. We'll be in respectful dialogue. We'll listen and learn as though that was the way the world always is, which of course it is not. Earlier this week, there was a Faith and Family LGBTQ Power Summit, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer. It was a group of people gathered to prepare to fight against an event that's coming up this week, the New World Congress on Families, a natural families movement which declares itself as the largest pro-life, pro-marriage, and pro-family gathering in the world, meeting downtown here in the Grand America. And among its speakers is Utah Governor Gary Herbert. It is so easy to be drawn into us-them language here. It is so tempting to get righteous. I wonder what it would look like to bear witness to universal love at that event this week. This congregation is wonderful at bearing witness and at advocating for justice. How much would it take to make it grounded in love? What would it be like to stand at that hotel and to say to people, there is nothing within you unworthy of love? Could you do it? I'm not sure that I could. I just had the idea during the first service. So I'm still processing. But if somebody wants to try it with me this week, come find me. We can convict each other, right? That's what religious community is for. Universalism is a tradition that opens our hearts as well as our minds. It reminds us that it is our responsibility to create the beloved community. It reminds us that it is our responsibility to give shape and form and body to a community that loves and values all families, all lives, and that also loves and values the world that we live in, the earth and its natural resources that we are dependent on. Universalism is a wisdom tradition that calls us to address the divisions not only between us, but within us, and to address them with love. The Russian writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn, whose name I can never pronounce correctly, once wrote in the Gulag Archipelago, "It was only there when I lay on rotting prison straw," when he was in a work camp, a gulag. "It was only there that I sensed within myself the first stirrings of good. Gradually it was disclosed to me that the line separating good and evil passes not through states, and not between classes or between political parties, but right through the center of every human heart, and through all human hearts. This line shifts. Inside us, it oscillates with the years. Even within hearts overwhelmed by evil, one small bridgehead of good is retained. And even in the best of all hearts, there remains a small corner of evil. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and that it were necessary only to separate them from us and then destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of their own heart? So how do we do it? How do we take those steps to find those places and love or let love in? How do we recognize and honor that each soul completes the beloved in some way? As is often the case, there's no single easy pat answer. And as is often the case, the poets point the way. The poet Marge Piercy once wrote that learning to love differently is hard. Love with hands wide open, love with the doors banging on their hinges, the cupboard unlocked, the wind roaring and whimpering in the rooms, rustling the sheets and snapping the blinds that thwack like rubber bands in an open palm. It hurts to love wide open, stretching the muscles that feel as if they are made of wet plaster, and then of blunt knives, and then of sharp knives. It hurts to thwart the reflexes of grab and clutch, to love and let go again and again. It pesters to remember the lover who is not in the bed, to hold back what is owed to the work that gutters like a candle in a cave without air, to love consciously conscientiously, concretely, constructively. I can't do it, you say. It's killing me. But you thrive. You glow on the street like a neon raspberry. You float and you sail, a helium balloon, bright bachelor buttons blue and bobbing on the cold and hot winds of our breath as we make and unmake in passionate diastole and systole the rhythm of our unbound bonding. To have and not to hold. To love with minimized malice, hunger and anger, moment by moment, balanced. That, my friends, is a way to start. Start by looking. Start by looking at ourselves, at each other, at our loved ones, at our enemies, and start by fumbling and stumbling and stammering and stuttering to say to ourselves and to them, there is nothing within you unworthy of love. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. It is a broad line and it is a blurry line. It is a line that draws us into relationship and responsibility. And it is a love that is strong and demanding. But it is a line that is worth walking, worth seeking, and worth remembering. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. There is nothing within you unworthy of love. Will you please join me in a closing hymn? It's number 318, We Would Be One. Friends, may life bless us and keep us. May the light of life shine upon us and out from within us and be gracious unto us and grant us peace. For this is the day, this is the one wild and precious life that we are given. So let each of us find some way to rejoice in it and to be glad. Go in peace and make peace.